It's not just the right of the person who speaks to be heard. It is the right of everyone in the audience to listen and to hear. And every time you silence somebody, you make yourself a prisoner of your own action because you deny yourself the right to hear something. In other words, your own right to hear and be exposed is as much involved in all these cases as is the right of the other to voice his or her view. Indeed, as John Stuart Mill said, if all in society were agreed on the truth and beauty and value of one proposition, all except one person, it would be most important. In fact, it would become even more important that that one heretic be heard, because we would still benefit from his perhaps outrageous or appalling view. In more modern times, this has been put, I think, best by a personal heroine of mine, Rosa Luxemburg, who said that the freedom of speech is meaningless unless it means the freedom of the person who thinks differently.
He certainly is one of the world's outstanding experts on the subject of Soviet propaganda and disinformation and active measures. Well, you spoke several times before about ideological subversion. That is a phrase that I'm afraid some Americans don't fully understand.
What it basically means is to change the perception of reality of every American to such an extent that despite of the abundance of information, no one is able to come to sensible conclusions in the interests of defending themselves, their families, their community, and their country. It's a great brainwashing process, demoralization. It takes from 15 to 20 years to demoralize a nation. Exposed to the ideology of the enemy. In other words, Marxism-Leninism ideology is being pumped into the soft heads of at least 3 generations of American students without being challenged or counterbalanced by the basic values of Americanism, American patriotism.
Are attempting to silence you, me, all of us. Well, my next guest knows this all too well. Joining me now is Brandon Struck, founder of the Walk Away campaign, a grassroots movement dedicated to helping liberals walk away from the Democrat Party. Brandon, after your group was given the boot completely from Facebook, this is the email that you say they sent you. Pages that are hateful, threatening, or obscene are not allowed. Continued misuse of Facebook's features could result in the permanent loss of your account. So what was hateful and threatening on your page, Brandon?
I guess they found us to be threatening to the success of the Democrat Party. I mean, basically my page, the only content that goes on the Walk Away campaign page are testimonials, true stories, videos, and written testimonials coming from people all across America and across the world who have had enough of exactly the type of behavior that we've been seeing from social media in the last couple days. But this is the only content that goes on my page are these testimonials. These are people telling their stories. So there would never be any opportunity for anyone to glorify breaking into the Capitol building or glorify an act of violence because people are just talking about why they want to leave the left.
Go talk to Peterson. Peterson, do you have any comments on the Nazi presence at your protest? The presence of Nazis and white supremacists assaulting people at your protest. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I don't like Nazis.
Then
Why were they here? Well, how can I answer
are there views in alignment with yours? At some point you have to realize.
That's a foolish question. Look, if you want to know what my views are...
I've watched all of your videos, yes.
Including...
Yes, I have.
Then why wouldn't you ask such a question?
Because this is my interpretation of your videos.
Apparently,
all of the people who arranged the protest against you watched all of your videos.
I have 150 lectures on YouTube. There's 500 hours of my views.
Do you really think that you're worth all of that time?
So look, I will answer your question, okay? I've studied Nazism for a very long time. It's been 4 decades, and I understand it very well. And I can tell you that there's some awful people lurking in the corners, and they're ready to come out. And if the radical left keeps pushing the way
That
it's
sounds
pushing,
very much like a
they're
threat.
going to come.
That sounds very
It's
much
not
like a
a
threat.
threat.
That sounds very much like a threat.
And they were hearing about Parler was over the weekend, maybe. We saw some examples of the posts that were most concerning from Parler. I think this weekend, Vlad, you may have seen the one about journalists being soft targets, any journalist being a soft target. Dan, can you explain to us how Parler was used by supporters of far-right viewpoints?
So, Anne-Marie, let's answer your second question first. Parler was favored by and fairly active with conservatives and members of the far right, including some extremists. But when we put this relative to other social networks like Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and others, it really didn't compare. Look, having been the recipient of countless death threats in the last 2 or 3 years, some of which originated on Parler, I can tell you that there is credence to the journalists are soft targets, but so are a lot of others. And, you know, we should say allies of the president and those who have crossed him are likely also recipients of a lot of these death threats.
The chances that Parler comes back online in the future, Dan?
Fairly slim to none.
In the last 24 hours, Twitter specifically has banned a number of different conservative accounts. At the same time, the Chinese Communist Party, the Ayatollah of Iran, still have their accounts because they're not a threat to the ruling party here.
Tonight, a deafening silence from the president's Twitter account in his waning days as commander-in-chief. Twitter, run by CEO Jack Dorsey, saying after close review of the president's recent tweets, it banned him due to the risk of further incitement of violence.
Undeutsche und unsittliche Bücher von den Studenten eingesammelt und öffentlich verbrannt. Der Scheiterhaufen auf dem Opernplatz in Berlin. Runter!